Hi, welcome back to the Single Man Chef. I'm Grant. I don't know if I even introduced myself last time. That was all high concept, etc. But yeah, that's me. I'm Grant. I'm a retired border services officer. You know, those jerks who ask you all the questions at the border. That used to be me. And now I'm a freelance writer and an author. Have you heard of me? Probably not. But you know, the more I push my face into people's homes, maybe that'll change. Anyways, in the first episode, I tried to explain why I was doing what I was doing. Now I'm going to explain, hey, knock it off. I'm on video here. Anyways, I was trying to explain why I was doing what I was doing. And now I'm going to explain to you your starting point in cooking. If you think you can't cook and you think that one of the reasons is equipment, you might be right, but you're probably also wrong. Because you might think that in order to cook, you need to outlay $500, $600, $1,000 on the fanciest gear this side of Paris. Well, you don't, really. You actually only need a few things. And let me show you what a few of those things are. It starts with knives. You need a good knife. Preferably more than one. Okay, but if you just have one good sharp knife, like this one, or like this puppy here, you know, first of all, if Mrs. Bates gets out of hand, you know what to do, you've seen the movie. But more importantly, you can actually chop things up without chopping your hands off. And here's the important thing to know about knives. A lot of people who don't have experience with knives thinks that the sharper a knife is, the more dangerous it is. That's only true if you're using it with homicidal intent. If you're using it the way normal people use knives, which is to cut things up so you can cook them, that's not true at all. Why is that? Let me show you. I'm going to cut up a tomato and an onion. Now, how do most people get hurt when they're cutting things up? They don't get hurt because they're stupid and they put their whole hand in front of the knife. Well, they might if they're trying to cook while they're drunk, okay? But they actually get cut because their dull knife slips off a round surface, right? A sharp knife isn't going to do that. This is what a sharp knife does to a round object. Okay, 1, 2, you don't have to saw at it. It just cuts right through. Here's an even sharper knife going after this onion here. Now onions are dense. A dull knife would take you a little bit of sawing to get through that. But a sharp knife, you don't need to do that. So you're much less likely to hurt yourself. So that's really the starting point. Have a good sharp knife. A knife that's versatile and can cut a lot of different things. Now, in a pinch, if all you have is a good sharp steak knife, like this puppy here, which I bought at IKEA, by the way, like I say, you don't have to spend a lot of money. This knife is still really sharp. If it gets dull, you can sharpen it, either yourself with a whetstone, or you can go to somebody who sharpens knives for a living, right? Maybe the guy who cuts keys has a whetstone. You can take it to him. Get it sharpened. It's cheaper than buying a new one. If it's a good knife, hang on to it. So this one will make nice little chops in all these tomatoes and onions too. Have a good knife. That's the starter. Another thing you want to do, when you're chopping, you want to have a good cutting board. And that means a wooden cutting board. I don't care what anybody else says about plastic or, you know, ceramic or marble or whatever. Wood. Wood is good because wood doesn't slip when you're cutting on it, unlike some of these other things. If the cutting board slips, again, you're more likely to cut your hand. Wood doesn't slip like that. You have a good pressure on the object and on the knife, wood's not going to slip. So that's your starters right there. Other basic things that you need, some forks, helpful when you're cooking meat or even when you're stirring pasta, and something nice like that. When you're cooking meat and vegetables in a pan, this is really good. It doesn't burn. It might look like it's gonna melt when you stick it in there, but it's designed not to. And it's soft, so it's not gonna scratch your pans. And last but not least, you gotta have something to cook this stuff in and on. So if you have a setup like this one, nice professional grade fan, these beautiful gas burners, right? Well, that's great. But not all of us cook in a kitchen like that. And I'm actually borrowing this one. This isn't what I typically cook in. This is my upstairs neighbor's kitchen. But if you have something like this, it's easier to cook good food because you got lots of space, right? You got your island, which is perfect for doing your mise en place, which is going to be our next lecture. But it's important to have good cookware to put on a four-top like this, okay? So you got your pots and you got your pans, right? And they should be good ones. They don't have to be high-end things, but they have to be big enough to cook a decent batch of pasta, and they have to be deep enough in order that you can cook that same batch of pasta, finish it off the way it should be finished without it spilling over the edge. So that's really important. So there's 3 things I would suggest that you have in terms of cookware. It's a big, deep pot for cooking things like pasta in. It's a marginally deep pan for cooking steaks and finishing off your pastas. And at the end of the day, a nice utility pot where you can cook rice, you can cook soups and stuff like that. I would also add to that, once you start getting more adventurous, a nice crock pot, okay? Because when you put things in a crock pot, like we're gonna see in later episodes, put them in there low and slow, like stews and soups, there's nothing better, okay? So that's what you need for equipment. So in our next episode, we're gonna talk about your mise. And by that I mean your mise en place. And yeah, it's French, but it's really easy to understand, and I'll explain it to you in a minute. Thanks.